Please make sure that you turn in your elephant and lion nutrition lab testing food samples. Make sure that you had completed the CER. It is due in the turn-in bin now. Okay, the Grongosa Food Web Human Impacts homework assignment should be posted under week 10. What you need to do is you need to open the assignment up, and you are going to have two different parts to be working with. You're going to have a digital Google Slides that is going to provide you with the different species cards, and you're going to have a Microsoft Word PDF. Now in this assignment, you are actually going to be writing out all of your answers on notebook paper. So go ahead and get out a piece of notebook paper, open up the Google Slides, and open up the PDF. Okay, let's take a look at how to set up the lined paper. So first what you want to do is you want to put the title of the assignment at the top with your name. Now, just a reminder, this is going to be due on the 25th. The title of the assignment is the Grongosa Food Web and Human Impacts. And then you can put your name, and I would include the due date. In the opened PDF, you need to read the overview and summarize with annotations right here underneath your title, your reading. Then read the instructions for the assignment. At this point, you will want to go to your opened Google Docs with the species cards. Okay, now that you've opened your slides, these slides are part of your assignment. Please read slide 1. Slide 2 contains the species cards. In your PDF, Part 1 asks you, for question 1, how many producers do you have? You will look at all the different cards and count the number of producers. Then on your worksheet, you will put number 1, write out how many producers do you have, and put that answer on your notebook paper. Complete question 2, how many consumers do you have? Please note that there are both cards on slide 2 and slide 3. For question 3, a food chain is a model that identifies the feeding relationship and the flow of energy in an ecosystem. Select a producer and consumer from your slides, then fill in the blanks below on your notebook paper, and select a model, A or B, that correctly will show the flow of energy. So for instance, if you chose the eagle, and the mouse. One is the consumer, the mouse and the grass. One is the consumer and one is the producer. You would write those in on your notebook paper and then show which one correctly shows the flow of energy with the arrow. Justify your choice. That is question 4, to justify your choice between A or B as the correct model. In number 5, it asks you to select 4 cards to create a food chain. Starting with a producer, you will label the trophic levels of each organism in your food chain as follows: a producer, a primary consumer, secondary consumer, and tertiary consumer. Please remember that we did go over this and took some notes a couple weeks ago, so if you wanted to go back, there was a video in our slide deck that you could review if you have forgotten what those words mean. You will record your food chain in question 5 of your notebook paper. And you will draw out your chain. On your slide deck, you can create your chain. To create a chain on the slide deck, you can double click with 2 fingers on your Chromebook, and that will bring up your root menu for copying and pasting. Or you can do Control-C. Copy the specimen card, click on your food chain, and paste that specimen card. To create an arrow, you will go up to your shapes and go to arrows, and then choose an arrow. And you can insert your arrow and move it around or make it larger or bigger by changing the box sizes. Complete your food chain on slide 4. Once you've completed your food chain on slide 4 and drawn your chain on your notebook paper for question 5, you have finished part 1. Part 2. For part 2, the beginning of what you need to do is read and annotate this section on the available energy at each trophic level. I would summarize your annotations on your notebook paper right here. You also need to include the diagram of the pyramid. Make sure to include each of the percentages as you will be using them in one of the preceding questions. Write out question 6 and answer it. Proceeding forward to number 7, place the organisms from your original food chain on this pyramid. Draw your pyramid, place the organisms that you chose for your food chain. For number 8, Using the rule of 10% in energy transfer, record the species names for each trophic level and the amount of energy available at that level if your producer level has 35 or 3,500,000. Let's try that again. 3,500,000 kilocalories of energy. Here's how you'll start. First, you need to put 3,000 3,500,000 kilocalories of your original producer. Then you will be solving percentage-wise for each of the next levels. So if you have 3,500,000 and you want to find 10% of that, which are unknown, then set up your proportion. 10% goes on top. Remember, it's always out of 100. That's what percentages are. And now you will multiply each side by the 3,500,000. It'll allow this side to cancel out. And on this side, you can use your calculator to multiply 3,500,000 times 10 divided by 100. As you calculated that, you should have come up with 350,000 as your answer. You will repeat this step each time, changing the percent to equal the percents from the above table. So we just did the 10%. You need to do 1% and 0.1%. Show your work on your notebook paper and then put your kilocalories of energy that each species receives going up the pyramid. Question 9. In 1 to 2 sentences, describe how the available energy may affect the population size of organisms at different trophic levels. With this question, think about if there is less energy for producers, how might it affect that top trophic level that is only receiving 0.1% of the energy from producers? Part 3. For part 3, make sure that you read and summarize the food chains, or read and summarize part 3's reading about food chains and their connection to food webs. For this segment, you are going to be starting with your original food chain. So if you go back to your Grongosa Food Web that you created, food chain, you can copy and paste all of your food chain down into your food web, or you can just, with 2 fingers, click on your slide and you can duplicate the slide, and then you get rid of the slide that we have here with your food web posted at the top. Once you have your food chain here on slide 5, then you need to choose one other producer and 4 other consumers to create a food web, making sure to note the direction of the arrows and that they are pointing in the correct direction from the thing that is consumed to the consumer. Then proceed to question 11. Question 11 asks you in 2 to 3 sentences to describe any patterns you may notice in the relationships between trophic levels. This could include things like the types of animals in the trophic level or possibly their feeding niches. Once you've answered the question, you need to copy the ecological force table into your assignment. It should look something like this. Once you have the table copied into your assignment, you will read about a disturbance. So let's go back to our Grongosa Food Web interactive slides. And on slide 6, you will find 6 different ecological forces that you can choose to place here. There's droughts, agriculture and deforestation, war, fires, increasing human population, and tourism. Once you've chosen one that you would like to do, you can read them all if you would like, but when you click on one, you can copy it and place it into the one that you are going to choose, and then you can increase the size. And that'll allow you to read it more efficiently. You will use the information on this card to complete your table. You will describe 4 ecosystem impacts that the card provides for you, and you will predict how this impact could be seen in your food web. For example, how might it affect the producers, or how might it affect the tertiary consumers? Once you've finished filling out your chart, then describe whether some of the trophic levels benefit from the disturbance while others do not. If humans caused the disturbance, was it negative or positive for each trophic level in the food chain? Answer that on your notebook version of the assignment. All right, part 4, model evaluation. In science, models are used to represent explanations and predictions. The food chain, food web, and energy pyramid are all models that show feeding relationships and allow us to make predictions. Compare and contrast the strength and weakness of each model by filling out this table. So in your notebook paper, you need to put the table that is listed here. So the 3 different models, then you're going to list 2 things this model is used for illustrating or predicting, and how are they different, right? Think about the differences They might all be looking at the flow of energy, but what's the difference in each model? And then identify one feature that this model lacks or one that could lead us to a misconception. So, for example, food chains might make you think that that's the only path for the energy. But when you see a food web, that's not the only path. So think about misconceptions or things that the model lacks that maybe another model might provide. Then question 13, you are going to select the model that you think is the most effective at representing the relationships among organisms in the Grongosa ecosystem and justify your choice in 2 to 3 sentences. Now this entire assignment took me about 7 to 8 pages front and back. 7 to 8 pages if you were only thinking about the front side to complete all 13 questions. So make sure that you staple them together or use the stapler in class before turning in this homework assignment. It is due on the 25th. Each part should take you about 35 minutes to complete. My suspect is that part 1 will take you 35 to 40 minutes to complete. You should be able to finish part 1 in class. Part 2, I believe, will take you also 35 to 40 minutes to complete. So you should be able to get started on it. You may get a little further in it or through it because it builds upon the last part 1. Part 3 should take you about 35 to 40 minutes as well. And part 4 is probably the one that is going to take you the least amount of time, but I still think it will take roughly 30 minutes. So make sure that you divvy out your time to have it completed by Monday the 25th.